Hello everybody. Ukrainian Telegram channel Resorgam published an interesting piece on Special Envoy Witkoff and his role in the negotiation with Russia. I would like to present the translation of this publication to you. It is becoming increasingly obvious that more dangerous than Musk, Trump Jr., Vance, or anyone else is Special Envoy Witkoff. And here is Witkoff, this guy you know, and this guy you know also, and this is Dmitriev, Russian guy. His wife is best friend with Putin's daughter. So that's how he is connected to Putin. We have already discussed his direct business ties with Dmitriev, the head of Russian direct investment fund. So this is Dmitriev, this guy. Dmitriev was the unofficial head of the Russian delegation to Saudi Arabia. It appears that Dmitriev was on the government plane to Washington before Witkoff visit to Moscow. Dmitriev has business contacts in New York and Saudi Arabia and connections with Steele and Witkoff. And also Dmitriev have connections with Jared Kushner, how he's the son-in-law of Trump. And it seems Dmitriev was the one who planted the idea for Trump to demand $300 billion in compensation from Ukraine, allegedly representing U.S. losses from exiting the Russian market, distorting the original discussion between the United States and Ukraine. Dmitriev himself stated to the Russian news agency Interfax that he provided the American side with data on US losses in the Russian market due to sanctions supporting Ukraine. This is the same old Russian narrative. The West suffers more from sanctions than Russia. This narrative was passed from Dmitriev to Witkoff, and Witkoff has been feeding it into Trump ears. As of yesterday, Dmitriev was appointed as Putin. It's not yesterday from the publishing of this article, so it was saying it was about 3 days ago. Dmitriev was appointed as Putin's special representative for economic and investment issues to communicate with Western countries. The goal of this appointment is to lift sanctions and bring Western businesses back to Russia. Overall, the communication chain looks like this: Putin, then to Dmitriev, Dmitriev to Witkoff, Witkoff to Trump. Do you know what this 300 billion figure corresponds to? Correct, it is equivalent of the amount of frozen Russian assets, which are mostly located where? In Europe. The US and Russia do not have direct access to these funds, but they intend to use them as a bargaining chip. So they are trying to bargain with something that they are not controlling. What was the latest news about this 300 billion in frozen assets? That supposedly Russia is willing to give them up for the reconstruction of Ukraine and their occupied territories. But do you know what this narrative is actually abstracting? It is abstracting the European process of using these frozen assets for military support for Ukraine instead. So they're saying that they are going to give up these funds for future reconstruction of Ukraine in order not to allow Europeans to use them to actually buy munitions and military equipment for Ukraine. What is Witkoff doing? He's legitimizing this idea. You will see concessions from both sides. He then continued, saying, one side will have to concede territory, while the other side will have to concede economically. Obviously, territorially refers to Ukraine, while economically refers to those 300 billion in frozen assets that Russia is allegedly willing to give up. But in reality, Ukraine is the only one making concession, both territorially and financially, because neither the United States nor Russia is actually giving up anything, because they are trying to bargain with something they don't control. So we are facing a situation where the US, through a negotiated deal, is trying to extract an equivalent 300 billion from Ukraine, an idea that was originally planted in Trump's mind by Russian financial actors via Witkoff, distorting the initial concept developed by Lindsey Graham. The distortion now looks like this. The US appears to be giving up its claim to the frozen assets to Europe as a part of a deal, but in reality, the US wants to compensate for its losses at Ukraine's expense. As a result, Ukraine has to give up money to the United States and territory to Russia, while neither United States nor Russia actually sacrifices anything. In essence, this is a well-crafted and professional trap where Witkoff and Dmitriev are trying to carve out their own benefits from the war through separatist agreement. This discussion about rare earth metals from Russia for the US are an element of pressure on Ukraine. By now, or it will be too late, Russia will sell elsewhere. Meaning, it is a pressure, meaning that if we Ukrainians don't sign this rare earth metals deal with United States, the United States will sign a similar agreement with Russia, throwing us under the bus completely. However, as long as Russia maintains ties with China, no one in Russia will actually allow the US access to those resources. This idea of Russian resources was once again legitimized first by Witkoff and caught Trump's interest, likely after prior coordination with Dmitriev, who ensured Putin's backing. Yesterday, Witkoff started legitimizing the idea that Russia is the provoked party. Once Witkoff secures a deal, meaning determining who will pay the benefits to the United States to sell it as a victory, he and Dmitriev will move on to the next stage, territorial concessions. For now, Trump is openly stating that he sees this deal as a way to recover US losses, not as an investment in Ukraine. And when asked about investments in Ukraine, we all heard his response. The way out of this situation is to use Western media to expose Witkoff's bias, increasing pressure on him and, at the very least, delegitimizing him in Europe as a negotiator. And later in the pinned comment to the post, author added the following. So, what else is Witkoff legitimizing for Dmitriev? First, he has effectively broken Putin's political isolation by first conducting behind-the-scenes hybrid negotiations with Dmitriev, which then escalated to Riyadh, excluding Europe and Ukraine from the process. He equates the aggressor with the victim, calling Moscow provoked, and he supports the myth of Russia making illusory concessions that are not actual concessions, while instead legitimizing real concessions from Ukraine. So I think this is quite interesting point of view, interesting view of current situation. I think we should pay attention to this. This guy Witkoff, he is a power broker. He is a completely ruthless New York attorney. He is also a real estate developer. And you know what it means? It means that probably some ties to the mafia, I don't know. And they are doing this deal behind, they don't care. They are here for their own enrichment. And okay, we will see how it will go. But I don't like how it all looks like. Okay, thank you for watching. Have a nice day and Slava Ukraini!